Good morning and welcome to Help Kit. This morning is our very first podcast. My name is Cathy Ricketson and I am an MSW, L.I.C.S.W. professional social worker, and my co-host is Beth Morrison.
Hi, I'm Beth Morrison and I am a L.I.C.S.W. social worker and currently working with NASW, which is the National Association of Social Workers, Massachusetts chapter, as their political action manager, and I handle a lot of our endorsements at the state level and help out with advocacy for NASW.
Thank you, Beth. This morning, we are welcoming Alison Christopher, who is one of our esteemed colleagues, our town social worker, currently serving at our Cameron Senior Center, our Council on Aging. As a professional social worker retiring right now this year, I wanted to invite Alison to talk about services at our Council on Aging and services that social workers are needed for around town. My second reason was just to be able to say that 3 social workers walked into a podcast booth and people were able to know where to get help. So I will let Alison introduce herself right now. Welcome, Alison.
Thank you. So I'm Alison Christopher. I am a MSW and an L.I.C.S.W., and I have been working here in Westford as the town social worker for just over 10 years. So that's my role, and I work out of the Cameron Senior Center. I've done a lot of work with seniors over the years. I specialized in gerontology in grad school and had a strong interest in the senior population when I came to work in Westford, which has flourished and has been a great opportunity here at the Cameron. But I also work with younger adults, people under age 60 who need social services and are residents of Westford. So I do both things from that seat at Cameron Senior Center.
And that's why we've invited you here today, because one of our goals with this podcast is to help Westford residents know where services are within our town borders and beyond, and to tell them things they may not know, which is how your role has evolved over the years, and we're going to get to that. Mm-hmm. So I think we should just start with maybe an overview of the services at the Cameron.
Okay. So at the Cameron, I am there full-time as the social worker, and I have outreach coordinating colleagues who are there 30 hours a week total. So between all of us, we provide the social service element of the senior center, and that includes a wide range of services. So it might include assessing a senior's situation at home for potentially needed services as things are changing with people's health or cognition, physical health, mental health. We are available to consult with them and their families about resources that they can go to for physical support, for cognitive support. We have a wide range of local agencies that we directly refer people to, day programs, in-home care, coordination with people's doctors and visiting nurse agencies. We have a medical equipment loan program if people are needing to borrow durable medical equipment when they've had an injury. I coordinate a lot with case managers and teams in the local hospitals when people are hospitalized and are needing to make plans for their discharge. I coordinate a fair amount with the local apartment complexes if they have someone who is a senior that seems to be in need of more services. both senior housing and just other apartments in the area will refer. And we also help seniors with a lot when they are struggling with their budgeting and their finances as they get older. So
that's really interesting. That's something that people might not realize is a service, especially if you need help with an elderly parent. So in social worker language, we would call our councils on aging our access points of service. So it's right here, locally. How do people get to the senior center? How do they find their way there?
You know, it's interesting. I feel like people find their way there from a lot of other referrals to us. So sometimes they're referred there by their doctor's offices. Sometimes hospitals suggest that they come. Sometimes their family members look it up because they've heard about it in another area of Massachusetts. And sometimes hopefully people see our newsletter that goes out in the community or a Facebook page or on the town website. We hope to get the word out as much as possible that the senior center exists and that services exist. But word of mouth is great. And
friends.
And these opportunities, yes, exactly, are great to anyone who hears about it and can share it with someone they think might benefit is what we're looking for, you know?
I see that you're doing a lot of work, and I'm sure during COVID it was, we were all it was a new situation for everyone. So how did your service change with COVID, and what were the effects that you're seeing now after we've somewhat gone back to normal?
You know, it's interesting because I think there were two different groups of people that I was working with during COVID. So there were the older adults that had been retired and had already a fixed income, and things weren't necessarily changing in terms of their work or financial life. But things were changing a lot in terms of their social and activity-based life, and sometimes in terms of their family contacts and increase in isolation. So for those people, we tried to maintain as much phone contact as we could during the brief periods that the senior center was closed. Tried to do a lot of outreach in that way, not just the social service and outreach departments, but we got a lot of help from
I was
the
one
Reserve
of your volunteers.
Corps. Yes. There were a lot of people that volunteered to help us maintain contact with seniors in the community. But luckily, we were able to reopen programs a lot more quickly than some towns did. And people came back more quickly than I would have necessarily expected them to. So I feel like we have been back to running very robust programming for quite a while now. And that people have been able to navigate that and kind of go with the flow and adjust to different levels of risk at different times. And, I think our director and our program coordinator have done a great job of figuring out what we can offer when and what is going to be the best thing for the seniors' well-being in terms of not just their physical health, but also their mental health and their ability to participate in the community that they've become accustomed to. So I think the younger adult population, I have seen more changes over the course of COVID in terms of people's life changes, their financial status changes, and a lot of resources that were available during COVID being really helpful to people, and then a lot of those resources starting to dissipate now and seeing the repercussions of that.
When you and I were speaking earlier, you mentioned how many contacts you had per year and how that kept growing. And so that led to a much more robust mental health initiative here in Westford. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So when I started in this job just over 10 years ago, I was planning to be mostly working with seniors and doing some amount of work as needed with adults under age 60 who specifically were having financial hardship. So the expectation was that I was going to do some SNAP applications and some fuel assistance applications with folks who came to the building because they were utilizing the Westford food pantry that also uses space in the senior center. But I think as things have evolved in town, there has been growth in the affordable housing that's available in town. There has been a lot of growth with the Westford food pantry. And so we have, and there's actually also been a lot of growth with our St. Vincent de Paul group in town that is a charitable group that helps people having financial hardship. And I think from a mix of all of those things, we have come to know a lot more people under age 60 who are struggling in various ways in town. And many of them come to me for financial reasons as a starting point. But it became clear that with financial problems, there are a lot of other systemic issues that are impacting people, and sometimes that involves their mental health, either as the cause of their financial problems or as an effect of what they're going through in their lives. So I think we started to see that there was a bigger need than kind of one person doing all of these things, and figuring out what else we could be helping people with as a town.
So I know there's a new mental health council that's beginning, and I just saw they appointed the committee at the select board. So that will be a new committee. So can you talk more about what that committee will be working on?
So previously there had been a committee that did some focus on mental health. It had started out with a couple of folks on the select board starting out talking about school safety and security. And over time, as more discussions took place, the need and the focus kind of expanded to people outside of the school, parents of kids, other adults in the community, the senior population. And, are we looking at this issue as a broad enough issue that focuses on the well-being of all of our community and the mental health and safety of everyone in the community? So I was a part of a lot of those discussions, and a lot of those discussions ended up resulting in utilizing ARPA funds to hire a community wellness coordinator. So that happened, I believe, last spring. Nicole Laviolette was hired with the goal of really bringing to the community as much information and referrals and support services specifically around mental health and wellness, substance use, and kind of general well-being, but making sure that people know what's available in this community and near this community as it specifically refers to their mental and behavioral health. So somewhat simultaneously, but a little bit before that, we also got through our health department a regional wellness coordinator who works under the health department part-time for Westford, but also for a number of local towns. So I feel like in a short period of time, we really received a lot of great and supportive resources for people's mental health. And both Nicole and Brittany Nash through the health department have a focus on bringing programming as well as collecting resources and disseminating information as it applies to all members of the community, from child on
all
through
the way up.
senior, correct,
Okay.
which is different.
So when you referred to ARPA funds, for those who don't know, that's the American Rescue and Protection Act that Congress passed to help people in need during this emergency. So the regional wellness team is Nicole and Brittany. Can you talk a little bit more about them, their names, and how you access them?
So Brittany is the regional person through the health department, and she is mostly putting on programs that she will post on the health department website, on other social media, Facebook pages, and around the community. She has done some classes already, and largely her information is disseminated through the health department's channels. Nicole works for the town, and she works full-time just for Westford residents, and has been working with me quite a bit on updating what was originally my social service resource guide for the town.
Oh, yes. Which is available on the Council on Aging website, I might add, right?
Yes, and it's now also available on Nicole's section of the website. She was able to disseminate it to many other departments and the schools, and she really helped to make sure that we were all using the same information so that all the age groups and all of the needs are contained in this one document, instead of having people creating their own little documents that might be confusing to residents if they get it in one place and it doesn't contain a piece of information that might be available in another place. So we've really been trying to work together to make sure that everyone has access to the same information, that she can get it out through her channels. And, she's great at the social media and publicity part of it. And that's been something that's really been challenging for me when I've been doing the direct client work, to have time to be getting the word out on things. So
now, in addition to all of that, for people who are not on social media, you have your Council on Aging newsletter, you have assistance services for getting people information, and will they be putting out a newsletter, or will it be going out in some other town publications?
So the town manager's newsletter has been including information from all of the departments, and I know that the health department and Nicole's community wellness department of one person have been putting out their own information in that monthly newsletter, the town manager's newsletter. I believe the health department may have their own newsletter as well, but I'm sorry to say I don't have as much information about that.
I believe that they do, but it's wonderful for people to know. And again, through our town hall services and through our Council on Aging, you can find out how to access those communications if you want them to arrive in your mail, and that's helpful. How can people make that phone call? Who are they asking for? Rather than just, trying to figure out who they're trying to contact so that they can find some services.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like we've really beefed up a lot of our community services for, during COVID, and using the American Rescue funding.
Yes.
And what are your concerns, I guess, going forward for providing these services in Westford? Are there things that are missing that we could, look to expand?
So one of the other things that we haven't talked about yet that also came with ARPA funding is that we contracted with a local mental health clinician to be a short-term bridge to mental health services for people in town who were waiting for appointments with therapists and often facing long waits. So we did that through ARPA funding as well. And so, that's a short-term plan at this point. And it's been going very well. Both Nicole and I screen Westford residents to be able to use what is technically called the mobile clinician, mainly because she can see people in various town buildings, as well as virtually. It's been a very helpful service to have access to. We've both Nicole and I have gotten referrals from the schools for parents calling about their children. I've been able to refer seniors that I'm working with that I might have otherwise needed to see weekly as kind of a holding pattern while they were waiting to get in with someone else. And people have also heard about it through their primary care doctor's offices, where we sent out information about that program. But, anytime you're using grant funding, you have to think about the fact that at some point that funding will not be available anymore, and will there still be the same need for that service at that point? So, that's something that concerns me. Whether we will still be seeing the long waiting lists that people are facing for mental health services when that funding isn't available. We've had ARPA funding as well for a couple of financial assistance programs for people in the community of any age. We've done a lot of rental and utility assistance through that. And again, I don't see that problem going away. I kind of only see that problem getting bigger now that a lot of the COVID-related funds for rental assistance and things have changed. SNAP benefits are going down from the emergency benefit. So I think there probably will be those needs moving forward. And, how will we face that as a town as things shift will remain to be seen. But I think people should know that the need is definitely there. The funds for rental and utility assistance have gone very quickly.
That's an important thing for Westford citizens to know. Mm-hmm. I remember when you got the $100,000 grant from the Cumming Foundation. Congratulations for that. To help with the nutrition wellness program and the transportation programs. And that also assisted you in outreach efforts as well, I believe, right? So social services are always scrambling for funding. And is that also part of your role, or is that something more that the director of the Council on Aging is always working on?
Jennifer Clara, who's our director, is in charge of applying for any grant funding, and she has applied for and obtained many other smaller grants than the Cummings grant that we had gotten about, I want to say, close to 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that. But if there's something that we want to do that's specifically around mental health, for example, she has asked me to participate. So we did get a grant this past year from the Greater Lowell Community Foundation, and we were able to offer a 6-month series on basic DBT skills for folks
Explain
at the Senior
what that
Center.
is.
So, DBT is dialectical behavioral therapy, but we basically asked a clinician who specialized in that type of cognitively focused therapy to come in and discuss some very basic skills that anyone can use around mindfulness and around managing one's emotions and
Anxiety.
interactions and reactions. And it was very well received, and people have enjoyed that type of programming in the past. So that was a great grant to have gotten. And Lisa Wesson, who's a local therapist, presented
also
for that.
a fellow social worker.
And I love that the seniors that come to the Cameron Senior Center, anyone from age 55 up can come. So we see such a broad group of seniors, and I love that they're so interested in the health programs and the kind of bettering themselves and living better lives as they age. Because the fact that this stuff can benefit anyone, the learning these skills, it's never too late to learn those types of skills. And the fact that our seniors in town seem to recognize that is great for us.
I want to do kind of just a little lightning round with you for a second. So,
Okay.
So if you're looking for elder services, looking to contact you, you call
978 399-2325, and that is my direct line. You can also call the main number at the Senior Center, which is 978-692-5523, and ask for either social work or outreach. And we job share quite nicely, so any of the three of us can be of assistance to a senior looking for any type of assistance or service and get them connected.
And if you need to contact our wellness coordinators for the town, either Brittany or Nicole, how would you contact them? Through the town website?
Yep. So the town website has the health department on it, and it also has the community wellness department on it. And they both have their emails and their phone numbers of the various staff on those sites. And those departments are both at Town Hall.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and it was great chatting with you about the services that you provide in Westford. And I hope that we can find a way to make these continued expanded services that we've developed during COVID more sustainable, because it sounds like it's a really needed service in town and adds a lot of value to our community.
And we're definitely going to invite you back.
Oh, thank you.
But
Thanks for inviting me.
Kicking off our very first podcast here at WestfordCAT, our community access television and now podcast station.
All right. We'll see you all next time.